Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Hi, everyone.
Today, we're tackling this really interesting set of materials you sent over.
Yeah, it's quite a mix. We've got excerpts from Tony Hillerman's novel, The Sinister Pig, some background on Hillerman himself, and context about the Navajo Nation.
Right, and our mission basically is to use all this as a kind of map.
Mm-hmm. To try and untangle what looks like a really complex web. There's murder, aliases, strange locations, hints of some pretty serious corruption.
It's a real deep dive, using only the sources you've given us to see how it all fits.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how it pulls together worlds you wouldn't normally connect.
Totally, like you've got retired CIA guys,
Navajo police work happening right on the nation,
Border Patrol down near Mexico,
DC politics, whispers about senators.
and then somehow exotic animals and pipelines. It's quite the blend.
Definitely surprising. And yeah, this look is totally custom tailored from your sources. We're just trying to pull out the key bits, the surprising facts hidden in there.
Okay, so let's dive in. The material kicks off in Washington, D.C. A restaurant, Bistro Bis.
Right. And this guy, David Slate, he's meeting another man, older, graying, burr haircut.
And Slate just hands him an envelope and says pretty bluntly, "You are now Carl Mencken."
And this isn't just a fake name, is it? It's like a whole persona.
Exactly.
Oh.
Slate explains Mencken is supposed to be a retired CIA consultant, now working for a company called Seamless Weld.
And that envelope, it's packed. Business cards, expense forms, the works, everything to make him look real, plus a credit card.
And the job itself. Slate lays it out. 50 grand plus expenses,
Mm-hmm.
30 days, or until it's done. Or interestingly, until Mencken decides it can't be done.
And it's all off the books, basically. A gentleman's agreement because the senator involved likes it that way.
Which brings us to why. The sources say it's about looking into a suspected ripoff of tribal royalty funds.
But Slate throws in that cynical twist, right? Maybe it's just the senator wanting his own piece of the graft.
Yes, it's a pretty murky tone from the start. High-level corruption vibes.
And the senator, Windsor. The sources paint him as incredibly wealthy.
But maybe not clean wealth.
Yeah.
Slate implies it's tied to narcotics importing.
Which is supposedly why he's lobbying against legalizing medical marijuana. It's not policy, it's profit protection.
Right. Driven by the joy of the game or just stopping others making easy money. Not exactly noble.
And the material makes it clear this Carl Mencken isn't just some random guy. He's over 60. But trim, looks young.
More importantly, his instincts are sharp.
Oh.
Honed in enemy territory is the phrase used.
Yeah. And he immediately thinks something's off about the Seamless Weld connection. Like, why that company? Maybe they're involved in what he's supposed to investigate.
And those old instincts, they kick right back in, even after some quiet years in D.C. He realizes he's being followed.
Mm-hmm. Spots the same guy multiple times. Distinctive feature, too.
The forked beard.
Right. Shows up near Seamless Weld in El Paso, then outside the FBI in Gallup, then on the road. Mencken figures he's an amateur because, well, the beard.
Yeah, a pro wouldn't be so easy to spot. But it doesn't make it less worrying.
Not at all. Like, he thinks one isn't followed for love and kindness. Something's definitely wrong.
And the fact that trail seems to start near Seamless Weld just makes him more suspicious about them.
And this whole setup section ends with Mencken arriving at this really remote spot, a pipeline junction, a truck driver tells him.
Far from D.C. now, fake name, and feeling that old tension coming back.
Which leads us straight into the next major scene change. We're on the Navajo reservation.
Yeah, Sergeant Jim Chee and Cowboy Dashie, who's BLM, they find a body.
Medium-sized man, face down in the brush. That same gray-blonde burr haircut we heard about.
And surprisingly well-dressed. Expensive clothes, custom shoes, out of place.
Dashie clocks it immediately. Felony murder on the res. That means FBI takes over.
Right, he even jokes about needing good crime scene work so the FBI doesn't blame them later.
And the details on the body are weird. Hole in the back of the jacket. Enter wound, probably.
But no blood. No powder marks visible.
And his pockets? Empty. No wallet, no ID.
Just car keys. Which Chee points out is strange. Keys, but where's the car? Big question mark.
And the feds, they're involved almost instantly. And the way they handle it is odd.
Special Agent Osborne takes the case. But the sources stress how it's pulled from the regional offices. Gallup, Farmington, Albuquerque, Phoenix.
Yeah. Handled directly out of Washington.
And the local guys are told, basically, stop asking. Don't ask who the victim is. Don't ask who picked up the body. Just stop.
Even Osborne seems to be on a short leash, told to cool it and just find who used the credit card.
It really screams cover-up, doesn't it, at the federal level?
Absolutely.
Chee sizes up Osborne as cynical, but maybe okay. They team up for a stakeout,
At Huerfano Trading Post, trying to catch the credit card user.
and they do. They nab a guy named Des Booty. Short, burly, described as part white, part Jicarilla Apache.
And he's using the Carl Mankin Visa card.
His story is convenient. Says some manly guy told him he could use it if needed, pay him back later. Found the wallet in a dump.
But it confirms the card belonged to the dead guy.
Chee figures Washington must have been watching that card number like a hawk for them to cash the purchase so fast.
But Osborne won't talk about it. Stays quiet.
So from Chee's point of view, it's a mess. Unidentified victim, missing car, fake name on a credit card, and a federal investigation that's actively hiding information.
Yeah, a deliberately constructed mystery.
Okay, let's shift perspective now to Bernadette Manuelito,
Right. She's left the Navajo police. New job.
Customs Patrol Officer, CPO. Moved down to Rodeo, New Mexico near the border, sharing a house with Elianda Garza.
And her job involves patrolling that really remote border region, the Boot Heel.
Source describes her spotting a truck towing a trailer. Later finds it parked by a gate, Tuttle Ranch.
And there's a big sign. Private property. Entry by permission only.
This isn't just any ranch either. Jacob Tuttle, the owner, raises exotic animals. For hunting.
Yeah, or EX, maybe ibex, things you don't normally see there.
So Bernie meets a couple of people there. Tom O'Day, a ranch hand.
And Colonel Abraham Gonzalez from Seamless Welds Incorporated.
Seamless Welds again. That name keeps popping up.
Definitely catches your eye. And the setup there is interesting too. The truck, trailer with tools, pipes, hoses, maybe a pump, a shack, a water tank.
Bernie gets suspicious. Thinks maybe smuggling.
So she gets out her binoculars, her camera with the long lens.
Pretends she just wants pictures of the oryx. Good cover.
Right. Drives up a hill to get a better view, and she snaps photos of the oryx, yeah. But also of Gonzalez, his van, the shack, the equipment, trying to document it all.
Then we meet her supervisor, Ed Henry, customs guy.
Described as friendly, confident, and old-timer for that border section, he's temporarily running the Saddle Wolves unit.
But his reaction to Bernie's photos is telling.
First, he chews her out for going onto the ranch. Trespassing, basically.
Then he reveals this special deal Customs has with Tuttle.
Yeah, the ranch hands tip them off about undocumented migrants using the water holes, and in exchange, Customs stays off the property.
Which sounds a bit cozy. Raises questions.
And then, significantly, Henry takes Bernie's photos. And the negatives.
Seems like maybe just procedure at the time, but
It becomes really chilling later. Because De Los Vasquez, a driver Bernie caught earlier with undocumented migrants, tells her something alarming.
what's that?
He says drug operators down in Agua Prieta, Mexico, have copies of a photo Henry took of Bernie.
What? How?
They think she's some special DEA agent. Her photo, with her distinctive big thunder pin, got passed along.
So Henry taking her photos is directly linked to them ending up in the hands of drug dealers. That's bad.
Really bad. Implies Henry might be compromised, or at least extremely careless.
Okay, let's switch back north to retired Lieutenant Joe Leaphorn.
Yeah, he's trying to enjoy retirement. Computer puzzles.
But he gets a call. Dan Mundy, retired prosecutor.
Mundy and a lawyer, Jason Ackerman, come to see him. They need his help.
With what?
A murder victim. An identity being suppressed. Mundy says, somebody pretty big seems to be sitting on this homicide case.
They don't have the name yet, but they want Leaphorn to figure out who the FBI is protecting, who they're covering for.
And then another person contacts Leaphorn about the same case. Mrs. Goddard, a journalist.
From U.S. News and World Report. She says her publication wouldn't care about just any murder. It has to be somehow significant.
And her angle. The Indian Trust Fund scandal.
Ah, okay. That massive long-running issue. Billions missing or mismanaged from tribal royalties.
Exactly. Goddard mentions the $40 billion estimate, the lawsuit, the government officials held in contempt for destroying records. She thinks this murder might be tied to it.
How so?
Maybe evidence, blackmail material, something useful for political campaigns, that whole knowledge is power idea in D.C.
And does Goddard have a name for the victim?
She does. Gordon Stein. She tells Leaphorn his body was shipped to a D.C. funeral home 5 days after being found.
And she mentions this unofficial story being floated that Apache shot him while deer hunting.
Right, a convenient cover story.
So Leaphorn and Goddard put it together pretty quickly.
Yeah. Stein, the victim Goddard knows about, and Carl Mankin, the name on the credit card she founded. They're the same person.
And they both see the pattern. Quick transfer to D.C., information lockdown.
Leaphorn wonders aloud, Who'd want Stein dead and have the clout to force an FBI cover-up?
The threads are definitely starting to connect now.
Which is exactly when Jim Chee calls Leaphorn's place.
But Leaphorn's not home.
No, but Louisa Bourbonnette is. Leaphorn's housemate, who's collecting oral histories, she invites Chee over for lunch. Smart move.
So Chee gets to talk to both Leaphorn and Louisa.
Yeah, he lays out his case. Victim shot in the back. Fancy clothes, no ID, body dumped near an oil road, no car.
Mentions the case going straight to D.C.
And he adds that the Jicarilla Apache police found a rental car, abandoned on their land, wiped clean, mostly.
And the rental agreement.
Lists Seamless Weld. And the El Paso FBI office, which should be involved because of Seamless Weld's location, isn't sharing anything with Agent Osborne.
Leaphorn picks up on that silent treatment Osborne's getting.
Reminds him of J. Edgar Hoover. Knowledge is power, and be damn careful who you share it with.
Leaphorn sees it all. The victim, Mankenstein, the credit card, the car rented by Seamless Weld, the D.C. takeover as really strong circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, evidence of a cover-up. It's all being deliberately obscured.
And then she pulls out the ace.
Bernie's photos, specifically the ones showing the Seamless Weld truck at the Tuttle Ranch. Clear sign on the truck.
And she confirms Seamless Weld was on the victim's rental agreement. Plus, he called them.
And they denied everything.
Yep. Denied anyone named Mankin worked there. Denied renting him a car. Just more stonewalling.
Louisa brings in the geography, suggesting they map the distance from the ranch to where the car was found, try to visualize the path.
Leaphorn tells Chee he should talk to Bernie about the rental and Seamless Weld.
But Louisa suggests he drive down, talk in person.
Which Chee seems keen to do.
Yeah, the sources mention he drives south, thinking about Bernie, past relationships, feeling lonesome without her.
Down there, he does some recon around the Tuttle Ranch himself.
Finds the entrance Bernie used, confirms the exotic animals, the water tanks.
But then a young ranch hand tells him something interesting.
What's that?
That there's another structure being built over the hill. Not for water. Involves recent metal cutting, welding on pipes.
So something else is going on at that site. Bernie photographed. Suspicious.
Meanwhile, Bernie gets sent back to that exact site. By Ed Henry.
Oh boy. Henry tells her the gate will be unlocked, says he'll meet her there later.
Given what we know about her photo ending up with drug dealers,
Yeah.
this feels really ominous, like a setup.
Totally. So Bernie goes in. What does she find?
This odd-looking structure made of pipes, supporting a big central pipe, and on the end, a large cap labeled Pig Launcher. Valves, dials all around.
A pig launcher, like for cleaning pipelines.
Usually, yeah. But here, she sees it in action.
Okay.
A whistling sound in the pipe. Then a yellow ball, maybe soccer ball size, arrives inside the launcher.
Whoa.
A man in Mexican Army fatigues Diego de Vargas. She later identifies him, unscrews the cap, and pulls out sacks of white powder, cocaine, from inside the ball.
So the pipeline isn't for oil or gas. It's a drug smuggling pipeline, using a pig.
Exactly. And Windsor is right there watching, impatient.
Windsor himself,
Yep.
at the delivery point.
Yep. Along with Budge, the big man, and de Vargas. Windsor's talking about the operation, the profits.
And he connects it directly to his lobbying against drug legalization.
Explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
Says legalization would cut into these profits from the pipeline.
Wow. Okay. And we learn a bit more about Budge, too, right?
Yeah, the sources fill in his background. Windsor's pilot, fixer, used to fly for the Guatemalan military.
Might be on a human rights list, maybe CIA involved somehow. Protected by Windsor CIA from trouble back in Guatemala, Windsor holds that over him.
And Windsor admits using Budge for dirty work before, like getting rid of an assistant, Chrissy, who copied files and threatened him.
And then in this scene, Windsor turns that on Bernie.
Yeah, it's chillin'. He orders Budge to kill her. Right there. Calls her this girl, this woman cop, a serious problem.
Tells him to put her on the Falcon jet and dump her over the mountains in Mexico.
And he reveals he arranged for her to be there. Quoting the source. Her duty this morning is to drive out to the back gate and go take another look at that construction site where she took all those photographs. He sent her into a trap.
Unbelievable. What does Bernie do?
She makes this incredibly gutsy, desperate move.
Okay.
Identifies herself Border Patrol, but then claims she's bribable. Offers to report nothing for 10% of the cocaine's value.
Where did she get that idea?
The source says Budge actually whispered the suggestion to her.
Budge did. Why?
He seems to see it as sensible. Says 90% is better than 100 if you have to go to prison to keep the 100.
He's thinking practically. Or maybe sees a way out for himself.
Seems like it. He starts talking about escaping Windsor,
Mm.
realizes Windsor will probably kill them too eventually. He won't want us around anymore.
But Windsor just laughs it off.
Pretty much. Mocks them. Explains his philosophy. The cops at the bottom do what the people on top tell them to do. Power protects him.
And then he drops another bombshell about the Mankenstein killing.
Right. He claims it was a hunting accident. Mexicans shot Stein thinking he was investigating their pipeline.
But then contradicts himself.
It says Washington now says Stein was actually investigating the Indian royalty theft for a senator. So Windsor knows who Steinmankin was, knows about the killing, and is actively manipulating the story.
Just confirms his deep involvement, and then Bernie gets attacked.
Yeah, she's hit during the confrontation.
And that's when Chee and Dashi show up.
Exactly. Chee used some wild story about terrorists and bombs to get Dashi there quickly. They arrive to find Windsor's body.
Windsor's dead.
Yep. Dashi, the BLM guy, is like, my first homicide.
Chee checks the body. Notes the wound looks like an exit wound from a shot in the back, consistent with the original entry wound found on Mankenstein.
He sees the whole setup.
Yeah.
The pig launcher, the coke, the yellow ball.
And Bernie, is she okay?
Injured, dizzy, the conscious. She tells him what happened, identifies Windsor, Budge, DeVargas, describes the pipeline, the ball, the drugs.
Explains Budge's bribe suggestion, mentions DeVargas took her gun, but Budge somehow ended up with it.
And in that moment, Chee gets personal, offers to take her home, asks her to marry him, wants her to quit police work.
Understandable reaction, given what just happened.
But Dashi's all business. Where did Budge and Diego go? They're escaping.
Does Bernie know?
She does. She overheard them talking, mostly in Spanish. They took Windsor's jet, the Falcon 10.
Which the source notes belongs to AGH Industries, likely one of Windsor's companies.
They're flying to Mexico, Mazatlan,
To meet someone.
Chrissy. The assistant Budge was supposed to kill earlier, but saved instead. Budge is in love with her.
Wow. So Budge had already defied Windsor once.
Seems so. Their plan is to meet Chrissy, sell the jets, start over. Bernie heard it all. She's the only witness of that conversation.
And then chaos. Multiple agencies arriving. State police, sheriff, customs, BLM, FBI.
Yeah, highlights the jurisdictional nightmare in these situations.
So what happens to Bernie afterwards?
She's taken to the hospital in Las Cruces. Cut, bruises, but recovering.
And the FBI interviews her there.
Yes, and Agent Jenkins.
Hmm.
And his questions are interesting. He asks why she was sent to the ranch, about Henry's instructions, that special arrangement with Tuttle.
And crucially, how her photo got to the drug dealers in Mexico.
Right. Suggests Jenkins might actually be investigating the potential corruption within customs involving Henry.
Meanwhile, the journalist, Goddard, follows up with Leaphorn.
Reads him her report. It confirms Bernie's account. The drug dealers killed Steinmankin because they thought he was investigating their pipeline.
And she contrasts that with Windsor's belief, or claim, that Stein was investigating the tribal royalty theft for a senator. Shows the different narratives swirling around.
But Goddard also confirms the official story is still the hunting accident involving Apaches. The cover-up Windsor mentioned is holding, at least publicly.
Leaphorn notes the story has died down locally. Information successfully suppressed.
And the sources remind us about Budge saving Chrissy earlier.
Yeah, he didn't kill her as ordered. He warned her, flew her to Mazatlan, helped her hide, sets up their escape plan.
And based on Bernie's account, that escape seems successful. Budge and Diego get away in the jet, heading for Chrissy and a new life.
So when you step back and look at everything from these sources...
It's an incredibly tangled story, isn't it? You have this murdered man, Mankenstein, with a fake ID.
Tied potentially to huge political scandals, maybe the Indian Trust Fund issue.
But killed, according to the direct evidence Bernie witnessed and the dealer's motives Goddard reported, by drug smugglers.
Yeah, drug smugglers using the surprisingly high-tech pipeline, the pig launcher, on a ranch in rural New Mexico.
That contrast is really something. The advanced tech, the jet, the pipeline system set against these remote dirt roads.
Especially when you consider the background info about infrastructure challenges on parts of the Navajo Nation, like lack of paved roads or utilities. It's just such a stark juxtaposition.
High-tech crime hidden in plain sight in rugged country.
And the way the story unfolds in the sources, you see different people uncovering pieces.
Chee and Dashi, with the initial crime, the body, the first clues.
Bernie, the CPO, whose instincts and bravery put her right in the middle of the drug operation, literally witnessing it.
And then Leaphorn, the retired detective working with Goddard, the journalist, connecting the dots back to D.C., the victim's real identity, the potential motives.
But the sources definitely leave loose ends dangling.
For sure. Budge and Diego escape. What happens to them? To Chrissy.
How deep does that political cover-up go? Is it really tied to the trust fund scandal in a bigger way, or was that just Windsor's angle?
And Ed Henry? What happens with him? His actions directly endanger Bernie. Does Agent Chinkins follow through on that?
Lots of unresolved threads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think what this deep dive into the material you shared really shows is how these hidden networks of power, money, and crime can operate just beneath the surface.
Yeah, linking worlds that seem totally separate, DC boardrooms, desert ranches, the complex day-to-day reality of the Navajo Nation.
It definitely leaves you wondering, doesn't it? About these vast sums of money, these dangerous secrets. Who really pulls the strings? And who ends up being held accountable when it all goes wrong? Or maybe, who doesn't?
Definitely something to think about.